Hello friends, this is Casey at the Bodie's Homestead, and in today's video I'm bringing you another article. Shrinking global grain supplies have little hope of replenishment until 2022 or beyond. The relentless rally in grain prices is the result of shrinking global supplies that might not be replaced until late 2022 or beyond. Supplies of three of the world's most important grains, corn, soybeans, and wheat, are shrinking, and it will likely take at least the next two growing seasons for supplies to reach comfortable levels again. And this is, hoping that we have good weather, good rain, the people to do the work, etc., guys. That's the prediction the USDA and many private grain analysts have come into recent weeks, and grain markets have taken notice. To be sure, farmers around the world are scrambling to produce as much as they can to reap the benefits of the highest grain prices in 8 years. Indeed, it looks like Brazil, in the midst of harvesting another record soybean crop, which is much needed right now, but weather around the globe literally needs to be almost perfect for at least the next two seasons in order to produce enough grains to rebuild inventories back to comfortable levels again. And here's why. Grains are interrelated. They are used for almost everything, from food for both animals and humans, to fuels like ethanol, corn and biodiesel, soybeans, to cooking oils, corn and soybeans, to wheat for breads and pastas. Not to mention, wheat is in almost every single processed food you could think of, or corn or soybeans. Annual combined use of all three grains grows steadily. In fact, in every calendar year since 1976, the combined usage of corn, wheat, and soybeans has either the record highest or the second highest annual usage level in history. As the global population and economy grows, so too does the use of grains. Hence, any significant supply disruption can have an outsized impact on global grain prices, which is what happened last year when China had crop failure. The true extent of China's 2020 grain production problems may never be known or recognized by official sources, but that doesn't matter. Markets can see two things that really do matter: the price of grains in China and the amount of grains China imports. Those two inputs have created a bullish formula. Chinese grain prices, particularly corn prices, rocketed last year and remain at elevated levels, and China will import record amounts of soybeans and corn this year. The verdict is still out on Chinese wheat imports, but they are likely to be record high too. Chinese wheat imports are officially already at their second highest level in history. Because of China's heightened grain import levels and because of growing grain consumption globally, global grain supplies have been drawn down. In particular, projected excess supplies of grains in the U.S. have fallen dramatically just from last year. U.S. soybean excess supplies are projected at this coming autumn harvest 6 months from now to be less than 10 days usage, down from over 48 days excess supply last autumn. That's not a typo. U.S. soybean excess inventories are projected by the USDA to be down 80%. 80%, you guys. Like, that's massive. Year on year from last season's harvest to this season's harvest. Excess U.S. corn inventories are projected down around 33%, from about 50 days to around 33 days in the same time period. And wheat's inventory decline is projected to be the least dramatic, with excess U.S. wheat supplies down 18%, from about 179 days to at least around 147 days this coming autumn. Critical to all the assumptions made by the USDA when determining their estimates are what called Trendline Yields, that is, historical multi-year yields based on prior actual per acre annual yields for corn, soybean, and wheat crops in the U.S. and the world. Yields are dependent on weather, and since accurately predicting long-term weather trends is not yet possible, the USDA forced to use the estimates based upon historical data. Luckily, there are a good number of years when the trendline yield is achieved. If farmers achieve trendline yields this season, grains will hit the USDA inventory's projections, and if the yields are exceeded, which does sometimes happen, grain inventories will build slightly from current projections, but it will still take a second consecutive year of trendline yields to build grain inventories to more comfortable levels. This is similar to the video that I posted yesterday talking about how we need at least 2 good years of hitting these yields in order to get back to a comfortable level. There is an important catch in all of these projections. Constantly improving technologies improve crop yields over time, which means trendline yields mathematically increase over time. That means the USDA is projecting future crop inventory levels that assume good weather, which in turn enables farmers to achieve trendline yields. If there isn't perfect weather, trendline yields are not achieved, and if trendline yields are not achieved, then there are fewer inventories than projected. In the current scenario, where projected excess grains inventories after the crop harvest of a crop not yet planted are too tight for comfort, even when assuming a trendline yield, what happens when the weather doesn't cooperate and the trendline yield isn't met? This is the greatest fear of grain markets. This is why markets have rallied to 8-year highs in the three major grains. Perhaps global weather will be perfect for the next 2 seasons, and grain inventories will rebuild towards levels at which markets are more accustomed. This could alleviate and even reverse the current uptrend in grain prices. But a good deal of time will have to pass until we know that with certainty, which means grain markets are likely to be volatile and uncertain for a good while longer. Okay, guys, so here's the article for you. Be thinking about putting stuff back. I talk about it constantly in all my videos. Put that food back, stock it to the rafters. 80% down on soybeans. Soy is in everything processed. So if you eat processed foods, be thinking about putting back your favorites because things are going to get real tight here coming up. I'm telling you, the next 6 months to a year, we're going to see food shortages. There's absolutely no doubt about it. It says corn's only down 33% and wheat down 18%. That's obviously not horrible, but it's not great. You know what I mean? And this is just in the U.S. You know, worldwide it could be much, much worse. And, you know, you have to think about, you know, the U.S. may have enough food for the U.S., but if another country's going to starve to death and they want to buy, you know, from us, you know, you just got to think about all those different things that come into play when the whole world is suffering from this extreme weather and crop loss. So, okay, that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye-bye.